Bread was once the most reliable fuel a working body could eat. Today, it leaves people tired, foggy, and hungry again within hours. This is not because humans suddenly changed. It is because bread did. For thousands of years, bread sustained farmers, masons, soldiers, mothers, and monks through days of hard physical labor. It built civilizations. It carried people through famine and winter. It was trusted enough to be called the staff of life. Now it spikes blood sugar, drains energy, and quietly reshapes metabolism in ways most people never connect to that morning slice of toast. Before we go further, write yes in the comments if this already feels uncomfortable. Because what you were told about bread, what we all were told, is only a small and very modern part of the story. In the modern Western world, bread is framed as a problem of moderation and calories. We are told that bread is empty, that it's just carbs, that it causes crashes because people eat too much of it or choose the wrong kind. We are told the issue is portion size, willpower, or lifestyle. If you feel tired after eating bread, the explanation usually given is simple: you're inactive. You're insulin resistant. You need more protein. You need to burn it off. Bread itself, we are told, hasn't really changed. People have. This framing is comforting because it places responsibility neatly on the individual. It suggests the food system is fine. It's just our discipline that failed. But history tells a very different story. For most of human civilization, bread was not a dietary liability. It was a metabolic anchor. It fueled work that modern humans rarely attempt: plowing fields by hand, hauling stone, walking miles daily, surviving cold homes and uncertain harvests. And yet, those people did not suffer the chronic fatigue, blood sugar instability, or metabolic confusion that now feels normal. So what changed? Not human biology. Bread itself. To understand this, we must step backward, not decades, but centuries. In medieval Europe, bread was not a side dish. It was the foundation of the diet. In many regions, people ate bread at nearly every meal, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. But this bread bore little resemblance to what fills modern shelves. Grain was stone ground, not pulverized by steel rollers. The entire kernel, bran, germ, and endosperm remained intact. Flour was coarse, uneven, alive with natural oils and micronutrients. Fermentation was slow. Not hours, but days. Dough rested, breathed, and transformed. Wild yeasts and bacteria partially broke down starches and proteins long before the bread entered an oven. This process mattered. A peasant loaf in 14th century France or Germany was dense, sour, chewy, and deeply nourishing. It digested slowly. It released energy over time. It kept laborious working from dawn until dusk without dramatic hunger or crashes. In monasteries, bread was so central that its quality was considered a moral responsibility. Monks tracked fermentation times carefully, not for taste, but for bodily harmony. They understood, empirically, that improperly prepared bread weakened the body. Early American settlers carried this knowledge with them. Colonial bread was often made with sourdough starters brought across the Atlantic. In New England, rye and corn were fermented. In the Appalachian regions, slow-fermented biscuits and hearthbreads dominated daily meals. These people worked brutally long days. Yet historical records rarely describe chronic fatigue or energy crashes as a feature of daily life. The bread they ate sustained them because it was part of a living food system. To understand why this worked, we need to strip away modern jargon and look at the body plainly. Grains are primarily starch. Starch is long chains of glucose. The question is not whether glucose is good or bad. The question is how fast it enters the bloodstream. Traditional bread slowed that process in 3 critical ways. First, the grain structure remained intact. Stone grinding does not shatter starch into fine powder. It leaves physical resistance. The body must work to access the energy. Second, fermentation predigested the grain. Wild microbes break down complex carbohydrates and neutralize compounds that interfere with digestion. This made nutrients more available while slowing glucose release. Third, traditional bread was eaten in the context of physical labor and full meals, with fats, fibers, and proteins that further moderated absorption. The result was a long, even energy curve. Not a spike. Not a crash. This is not speculation. It is basic physiology. Slower digestion equals steadier energy. That was understood intuitively long before it was described scientifically. And this is where the story turns. Because once bread became an industrial product, its relationship with the human body fundamentally changed. If this reframes how you've thought about bread even slightly, let the algorithm know by liking this video. It helps keep long-form historical conversations alive. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, bread underwent a quiet but total reinvention. Steel roller mills replaced stone. These machines stripped grain of its bran and germ, leaving only the starchy endosperm. The result was white flour, shelf-stable, uniform, easy to transport, and ideal for mass production. But something critical was lost. Without the germ, natural oils disappeared. Without the bran, fiber and micronutrients vanished. What remained was essentially purified starch. To make this flour behave, industrial yeast replaced wild fermentation. Dough that once took days now rose in under an hour. Speed became the goal. Volume became the metric. Bread became soft, fluffy, and visually appealing, but metabolically hollow. To compensate, manufacturers later added synthetic vitamins back in. But nutrients added after processing do not behave the same way as nutrients preserved within a living grain structure. The bread still looked like bread. It smelled like bread, but it no longer acted like bread inside the body. This shift coincided with something else, a dramatic reduction in daily physical labor. Machines replaced muscle. Movement shrank while refined calories multiplied. The old metabolic contract between bread and body was broken. When modern bread enters the body, it is absorbed rapidly. There is little resistance, little digestion required. Blood sugar rises quickly. Insulin responds aggressively. Energy spikes, briefly. Then comes the drop. This rapid rise and fall is not how human metabolism evolved to function. Over time, this pattern trains the body to expect frequent glucose surges. Hunger returns sooner. Cravings intensify. Energy becomes unstable. This is not about weakness or overeating. It is about a food engineered for speed entering a body built for patience. Historically, bread did not hijack appetite. It anchored it. Modern bread, stripped of time and structure, behaves more like a stimulant than a staple. It gives quickly, then takes more than it gave. This is why people can eat more bread today and feel less satisfied than a medieval farmer after a single dense loaf. The body is not broken. The relationship has been altered. The solution is not elimination. It is a remembrance. Traditional cultures did not fear bread. They respected it. They fermented it. They ate it slowly. They paired it with labor, fat, and time. They understood that food is not just chemistry, it is a process. Across Europe and early America, bread was part of a rhythm: bake, work, rest. Energy was not spiked but sustained. Today, when people rediscover long fermentation, whole grains, and slower eating, they often describe a strange experience. Bread no longer exhausts them. Not because bread was evil before, but because it was once alive. The lesson is not to romanticize the past, but to recognize what was lost when efficiency replaced wisdom. Bread did not betray us. We abandoned the conditions that made it nourishing. We removed time. We removed the fermentation. We removed context. And then we blamed the food for failing to perform a role it was never meant to play in isolation. History shows us that bread can either sustain a civilization or quietly drain it, depending not on the grain, but on the way it is treated. Understanding this does not require fear or restriction. It requires memory. If you want to continue uncovering the truths modern life forgot, subscribe and stay with us. And leave a comment, not to agree or disagree, but to participate in remembering.